Okay, I'm going to demonstrate some manager self-service capability for MyOVS, and I'm in SharePoint 2010. I'm in SharePoint 2010 site, and all I've done is I'm just gonna run through some various manager functions, and I'm starting off with my tasks. Okay, so this is basically all of the inbound tasks that might be, say, associated with, say, SharePoint, or rather SAP's workflow inbox, or a SharePoint workflow inbox or task list, and or really any other SharePoint or a workflow engine like an Nintex or a K2 or some other workflow engine solution. But essentially, within my tasks, we can surface any of those inbound items and allow the manager to at least at a minimum reject or approve and see some information about it. In this case, we have some leave requests here. I'm logged in as David Phillips, who's a manager, and I'm going to go ahead and look at that task, and I see that he submitted a leave request for that he needs to rest his back, and I can approve or reject this request, and I'll just go ahead and approve that. I can see here that here's a different one where he's asking for a day off, and I can go ahead and I can put in some notes and say fine by me and approve, and then allow the process to move on. I could also look at any of the tasks that I've processed in the past. I can see any of those tasks. You can see I have several tasks that have been completed. Now, in the event a manager goes on vacation, a manager can delegate in using the MyOVS Manager Self-Service. Manager can delegate those tasks to others. So, for example, in this case, I can see that I'm a delegate for a manager named George Byrne, and then I have some delegates. Looks like I have some test delegates set up. And so what I can do is I can select, say, an employee. I'll select Carl, and for a particular date range, and I can go ahead and select just the tasks that I want to delegate to Carl during this period of time when I'm going to be, say, gone or out of the country or on extended leave, and I can click create. And you can see there that I have an entry for that delegation record for Carl. So manager delegation can be very straightforward. So here's another manager function. Here in this case, this is just a simple approval report or a approval view, a mass approval. And here this is for, in this case, this is for time. I can see for a particular work day that Ralph Weller worked 8 hours, and I can approve or reject that time. Another capability we have is the ability to look at the organization. So in this case, we have kind of a simple view where I see some information about people, say, within my organizational unit. I'm the head of Human Resources Central Organization, and I see some employees. I have employee photos. I can see that this particular employee doesn't have a photo in the system. I can see name, department, position, and other information about that, about those employees. And I could also take action on those employees. So in this case, it's easy to configure, say, certain actions or transactions. They could be PA40 actions, but they don't have to be. They could be any transaction really that you want to associate with the manager experience. And for example, new hire or transfer or change in position or various other capabilities. I'm going to show an example of a hire homepage. Here in this case, an employee or say a hiring manager, or it could be even an HR generalist or somebody who works in the human resource department can come in here and actually see either recent hires or see incomplete hires, and so this is kind of a nice capability, because often what happens is that when there's a hire action that's taking place and that transaction gets interrupted, then it's difficult to go back and to carry on or find where you left off in that hire action. Say you didn't have the proper paperwork or something was incomplete. in the paperwork when hiring that employee. Now the person can come back and actually pick up where they left off, find, go and see a simple list, and continue work. Here in this case, an employee, often, employee self-service or manager self-service, you need to be able to do a quick hire, say just to get an employee into the system, and we've designed a form that would support such an action, where it would be very simple to create. Just get the basics in, start date and the action type and reason, the organizational assignment, and some personal details, just to be able to get that employee into the system. And that's something that say an area manager or a district manager is capable of doing all on their own, without having to have all of the information. But at least what that does is it facilitates getting the employee hired, and perhaps getting them to work sooner, and then allowing them to get paid. Okay. So, and similarly, employee or manager can review, say, a hire overview. A manager can come in and look and see, see the personnel number, but be able to see some information about an employee that's been hired. Now, for something that's a little more end to end, a little more PA40 like, if you will, we've designed an experience by which a manager, again, or an HR generalist, or somebody who's involved in performing the hires, can walk through a step-by-step process. And here you see just an organizational assignment screen, and the manager can fill in the information, or the generalist can fill in the information, and then click next or save the progress. So let's say, again, that this person doing this work has to go to a meeting, and needs to stop. They can actually save their progress, and this will actually save it within the OVS application, within SharePoint, before it's submitted to SAP for the actual PA40 transaction. But it's very helpful, because then again that employee can come back and pick up where they left off. So that about rounds it out. That's MyOVS, a brief look at manager self-service.